Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss at Internet Shitlords, and today in this special episode I'm doing another book review, an RPG book review, this time of Chaalt. I refuse to make use of the apostrophe, which is a game setting slash dungeon crawl adventure by Venger Satanis. Before we start, a little personal note for my fans. If you haven't found out about this yet, my Medieval Authentic Companion is now officially out. It is now available in print. You can get it from Spectre Press. The link is going to be in the description below. And it is a fantastic book. It's 266 pages, full of material of Medieval Authentic rules, modifications, classes, setting stuff, advancement opportunities, and lots of magic stuff that you can use to give a more medieval feel to your OSR, D&D, or Lion and Dragon, or any other type of fantasy game that is kind of old school related. There's a lot of good material in there, so be sure to check it out. And if you do that, that's a great way to support me and my channel, as well as sharing this video, so don't forget to share this video too. Second little note, Chaalt is written, as I mentioned, by Venger Satanis. Venger Satanis is my co-host on Inappropriate Characters, which is our other channel. And if you don't know about it, you should do a search for it and add it right away, because it's really funny. It's a good show. But I should point out, I had nothing to do with the production of this book. I make no money from this book. I was not paid to do this review or in any other way incentivized. I'm coming forward and pointing out that he's my co-host in this show just for the purpose of transparency. But if you've watched that show, you can be pretty sure that if there's something to razz Venger about, I'm going to razz him, right? So you can be pretty certain that my review is going to be fairly honest. So, first of all, Chaalt is, like I said, basically a setting book. It's a Gonzo fantasy type of setting book, and it's a setting book that is ostensibly, he advertised it thoroughly as being an OSR game or OSR compatible. And then in other circles, he advertised as being a 5th edition compatible type of game. And so, which is it? Because also we know previous products of his that claimed to be OSR were not. So is this OSR or not? Well, that's one of the key things I'm going to answer here. One thing I'll point out is the book is fantastic. It's like, you can see here, this is hardcover. The pages are all glossy, high quality paper. The color is good. It's intense. The design is really well made. So basically, this is quite a fine product in terms of the production value. Like it's really spectacular. My Medieval Authentic Companion, for example, has got nice production values, as do Lion and Dragon and Dark Albion. You know, lots of good art, interesting layout, interesting art, good layout, and it's been, well made and well designed and looks good, but it certainly doesn't have kind of the level of quality of this. So in terms of the production value and the size that you're getting and everything else, I think this is, I don't remember exactly how many pages this is, 212 pages. So, yeah, so it's really good quality, and it's a high-quality book, visually speaking. So, the first thing of importance, skipping all the intro stuff that we get there, is that this is a kind of a setting of a post-apocalyptic, weird Gonzo fantasy world. It's a world that, as it says here, it started out as a pseudo-medieval land of elves, dwarves, snake men, clerics, magic users, and dragons in the Age of Legend. Then the old ones showed up. There were also space things. Then there was a tech age. Then an apocalypse. And now there's the, they call it, nowadays, it's the Obsidian Age. It's a world of endless conflict. You get a fairly interesting looking map here. Not too sure why the blood stains, but there you are. It just adds to the ambiance, I suppose. That's just Venger's style. You get a few details on crossing the desert survival. Basically, if you're wearing armor, you're screwed, so it's not an armor kind of place. Radiation can create weird effects. You could become a mutant. There's a mutation table here. It's a D30 mutation. And, the mutation table is, I guess, okay. It's better than a lot of Venger's random tables in that this has got a lot of details, and it's not really, like, triple X rated or anything like that, It's within reason. Then it lists a few of the places that you can find in this world of Chaalt. The Obsidian City, and the kingdom that is a matriarchal rulership. It's called Chaalt. This is already this is one of the problems with Venger's style of comedic role playing. He does a lot of very topical, pun based, setting material that is like really pop culture-y. So this is called the Kingdom of Chaalt. It's a matriarchy where women have enslaved men. And of course, Chaalt is meant to be, I think, a reference to the Gillette ads that happened like a year ago that were claiming that basically men were scum, and like they were trying to sell these shaving products to men by telling men how awful they are and how they really shouldn't act like men. And so, yeah, that's great. And this would have been fantastically funny like 7 months ago. But there we go. The largest city is Agribah. Lots of unnecessary apostrophes, as usual. The domed city, the Great Sunken Library. There's some very, very, very basic rules here on like cyberware and stuff. And of course the Dune reference. And here we get to something that will tell us exactly, this is a very good example here, of in what way is this product OSR or 5e compatible or both. Here you have a very simple set of stat blocks, as you can see, right? So there's armor class, hit points, a saving throw number, which is the number you have to roll equal or higher than, hit dice, attack bonus, attacks, damage, special abilities. So what Venger has done is he's basically stripped everything down to the most bare bones stats that you can then use, whether you're playing 5th edition or whether you're playing, classic OSR D&D. You could do it, right? So it is compatible, in fact, with both 5th edition and with OSR, which in one sense is way better than some of the earlier projects that Venger had, which he advertised as being OSR, but they were actually for his like weirdo Crimson Dragon Slayer system, which is not an OSR system, so he was basically lying to us. And it's better than doing some kind of half-assed, over systemizing. So it's actually good. It's a perfect solution. Actually, it's very well done. I think that it does a fairly good job, and it requires very little effort on the part of a DM, regardless of which of the systems they're running, to change it. The Gamma Incel Cantina, it's a base of like spacers that have come because they want the spice of the giant sandworms. Here's the Chartreuse Sea. Again, more stuff about the spice. This is like a justification in the setting for why there are like people from Alpha Blue and another Avengers products might come to this planet, is because they're looking for the spice. Big Corso, One Wizard Town. So you get a lot of little descriptions of a lot of these areas, right? With lots of good stuff. As you can see, the art quality is good. You get some monsters, some factions, some different organizations. The Arma Initiative. Okay, that's like just 10 years out of date there in terms of topicality. What the hell? Sandworms, scorpions, Goth rules, whatever those are. What we on Earth would call an alien dinosaur. Then just call it a dinosaur, damn it. Anyway. Occasional slightly inappropriate art. Cool art. And you get to, like, you're at, what, 29. This is a table of possible treasure that you can loot from a corpse. It's ridiculously too small. It's like, if you only have 12 entries and stuff you can get from a corpse, that's wrong. You need like 100 entries there. A few magic items also. Like, that's a classic Venger problem. He has good ideas, but not enough of them, so he does like, he ends up making a table that is a worthwhile table if it had like 100 entries or 30 entries, and it has like 4 entries, which is just not sufficient. So here are the races of Chaalt, which are basically like a ton of elves, just a crap ton of elves, right? There's Infernal Elf, Moon Elf, Blood Elf, Sky Elf, Midnight Elf, Sun Elf. And that's it. That's what you get. You can pick any kind of elf you like. Though I think the implication is, of course, that you can use any other race, too. These are just races that have been made more specific to the setting, right? There's a few things here that are kind of interesting, which is, like, it shows that that on the one hand, Venger has enough, kind of knowledge of the 5e system, and on the other hand, really doesn't think things through or care one or the other. So, like, the Midnight Elf, for example, are weakened and at disadvantage when in direct sunlight. Okay, so that's a serious disadvantage. Anytime you're outside in the sun, you have disadvantage, right? The Sun Elf in direct sunlight is invigorated and has advantage. Okay, see, there's your error, right? Because this having disadvantage anytime you're out in the sun is not the same. It's not equivalent to a race having advantage every time you're out in the sun. This is way better, right? Like the Sun Elf kicks the Midnight Elf's ass, right? So, this is what they should have done, is that the Sun Elf has disadvantage when he's in the dark or something like that. He didn't really think that one through, I guess. But this is like the very basic sort of guide to the systems. There's a table of names here, where you're told naming Bob is a sin against role-playing. No, naming a character something like Daga Aath is a sin against role-playing. This is just poser bullshit, Venger. Like, those are not real names, right? And those are really stupid names. They have no basis in any language. They don't have basis in mythology. They don't have any basis in any culture. They're just stupid Klingon names, basically. Saving throws is basically a 1-value saving throw, which is similar to something he borrowed from me, though to be fair, I borrowed it from Swords and Wizardry. And except that here, like, each level that you go up brings down the value of the saving throw that you have to roll. So if you're level 1, you only save on a 19 or 20, which is really brutal, actually. Though I believe that it's recommended somewhere later on here that your character should start at level 3, which is a bit of an homage to the old Dark Sun system. In fact, all of Chaalt, if you take a look at it, is a bit of an homage to Dark Sun. So I guess that's okay. There's also a table for critical success and failure. Now, if you'll see here, we're only at like page 32. And then after that, we get into, like, that's the end of the whole rest of the world setting. Here you get a little section on some stuff with spells, a mishap table, some noteworthy details about different powers and things that are around, city background. So like here we get a short mini adventure that is about the city of the Purple Demon Worm, which I'm not going to pronounce. No, screw that. I have no interest in pronouncing your nonsense words, Venger. And it's got a number of like things. So it's an introductory adventure, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that. 5, 6. I think Venger has cat envy. 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's it. So it's an about 11-page dungeon. The map, right? So it's got what you need, and then you have inside the Frozen Violet Demon Worm, which is another kind of section with stuff. There's a psionics table there. Violet Demon Worm in question. Sun Elf, they have advantage in the sun, apparently. Revolution. Okay, so that's another section here of... Oh, wait, no, there's a little bit more. Feminism. So, I should mention something, actually. Like, what I'm trying to get at here is that there's a couple little mini-dungeons, and then the Black Pyramid, which is the big dungeon that occupies the rest of the book. But before I get into that, I should point out something about Venger Satanis' dungeons, right? If you want one of those, like, kind of careful, organic, living dungeons, where there are different groups and cabals that all make sense to be there, that are doing things that are coherent within the dungeon setting, and that interact with each other as well as with the characters in sophisticated ways that reflect sensible motivations, and there's not just kind of random nonsense, then this is not the kind of dungeon for you, right? These are dungeons that are, every room is pretty much a set piece, right? That is independent of any other room. You go into a room, it's got one thing going on there, it's a wacky, crazy, funny thing, and then you close the door, you go to another room, it's got a completely different wacky, crazy, funny thing. And if you stop to think about those funny, wacky, crazy things, you'd be like, well, why hasn't the crazy, wacky, funny thing in room A killed the crazy, wacky, funny thing in room B? Right? Like, but that doesn't matter, because that's not the point, right? The point is, like, going into a room inside the body of a worm and finding 4 humanoids and 1 bizarre alien playing poker around a makeshift table. There's a Sky Elf, Midnight Elf, Octopoid, Crystal Humanoid, blah, blah, blah. And that's just happening in a place where, in the next room, there are the spawn of Cthulhu, right? So this is how that works, right? I should kind of, like, I had a spiel that I was going to mention about this context, right? So there's, when it comes to Gonzo gaming, there's sort of like 3 different levels, right? The first is not Gonzo, right? Whether it's like mainstream fantasy or stuff like medieval authentic fantasy, like My Lion and Dragon, there's no Gonzo in those products. Then you have like standard weird Gonzo fantasy, and then you have like stupid weird Gonzo fantasy. Now, Venger Satanis, I don't think he could make a non-Gonzo game to save his life. I really doubt it. I don't think he's got it in him, right? I don't think he would make a very good standard weird Gonzo fantasy product. It wouldn't be in him either. But he does make a really good, stupid Gonzo fantasy product. And so this is the thing. You have to like Venger Satanis, you have to like stupid Gonzo fantasy. And there are people that do. There's a lot of people that do, right? That it's just, you know, crazy, stupid nonsense that is a barrel of laughs, and get your players to run through this gauntlet of crazy, stupid nonsense and survive, right? I sometimes use stupid Gonzo fantasy. I have moments in my DCC campaign, in the Last Sun campaign, many of the products of which are you know, in the RPGPundit Presents series, right? A whole bunch of my Gonzo stuff there. There's moments that they verge on stupid Gonzo fantasy, right? Where it's just like, you know, this is a little, you know, this is kind of ridiculous, right? And I try to like kind of make that edge for the people that mostly like weird fantasy but would like it to be kind of stupid without being really stupid, because I wouldn't do very good really stupid Gonzo fantasy, whereas Venger is probably like the Leonardo da Vinci of really stupid Gonzo fantasy. So if what you like is really stupid Gonzo fantasy, then run, don't walk, run to get Chaalt, right? If you do not like really stupid Gonzo fantasy, you're probably just not going to like anything Venger does, right? You might find some stuff that you'll be able to mine for making less stupid Gonzo fantasy. He does have some creative ideas within the broader context of Gonzo, right? And you can use some of that. You can take some of it, like I've done. I've taken a bunch of his stuff from the review books he's given me. I've cannibalized them and I've remade them into something slightly less stupid and put them into my game, right? And again, I want to reemphasize that I'm not trying to like make light of Gonzo, of Venger's ability to do Gonzo, or the quality of his work. When I say stupid Gonzo fantasy, I'm saying that there's this genre of stupid Gonzo fantasy that it's not actually easy to do really well, because you can't. It does take creativity and effort, and there's stuff he does well, right? He's got here, for example, he has a very big table of patrons you will find in the Gamma Incel Cantina, and a lot of them are really stupid. Some of them are Gonzo and weird, but it's a fairly good table, actually. It's on the contrary to many of his usual tables. There's like 100 entries there, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, there's 69 entries. All right, I take it back. Here, there's 100 random ability scores. What you need that for, I have no idea. Ability score modifiers, which have 3 different qualities there. Modern, old school, and antediluvian mods. I like that. Some really good art. You gotta love these production values. There's a picture of the Gamma Incel Cantina. And then we get to the Black Pyramid. And pretty much the entire rest of the thing, the whole remainder of the book, is this Black Pyramid. So what is the Black Pyramid? It's this massive kind of pyramid in the middle of Chaalt that has, all the really badass stuff in it. It's your standard premise for a mega dungeon. I'd say this comes close to being a mega dungeon, actually. Rumors table. Some very good art. I guess that's the Black Pyramid in the background right there. And it has rules for what happens while you were gone from the pyramid, because sometimes, time is different there, and what happens when you leave the pyramid, and horrible Cthulhu monsters that are in the pyramid, wandering monsters table. This is clearly the bulk of his main effort here, the NPCs that you can encounter in the Black Pyramid. Here's a list of 20 of them. So, I'm definitely not saying that Venger isn't making an effort. He's making a huge effort in terms of both production values and the stuff he's putting into it, right? It's just his style is a style that is certainly a specific taste. Now, I will note that Chaalt, it still has some, triple X rated stuff in it, I guess. Not really. Nothing Venger does is triple X rated. It's at best, it's NC-17 rated for sophomoric boob humor, But anyways, yeah, there's stuff there that 14-year-olds will think is super edgy, and makes them badasses for even reading it, and everybody else will think it's just infantile. There is some of that stuff here, but not nearly as much as you see in Alpha Blue or some of the Alpha Blue products. He's way toned that down, because I think Venger is trying to appeal to people whose main interest is not simulating, erotic experiences with blue-skinned, 3-boobed prostitutes in some Alpha Blue game. Lewd stuff. So, the pyramid has some more tables here. The pyramid is arranged in a series of rooms. As you can see, they don't particularly have, it's actually a little bit disappointing, the layout of the pyramid itself. But it's kind of because I think it's supposed to be weird multi-dimensional qualities to the areas, right? So and you do start there at number 1, and then you can move along it, right? And this is not the whole of it. There's more. Let me just see here. Somewhere around here is another one. you end up fighting fruities. Anyways, there's more than one of these maps, and so in all, I think there's something like 49 rooms or something like that, or 148 or 149 rooms. There's a legend that there was one more room once, and then it disappeared, and that's supposed to be an important part of the story of it, which it really isn't until you get to the end or something like that. There's a movie theater in there, a humanoid community welcoming you. A tiki bar, of course, good art. Fallout shelter, because, Fallout is cool. Some evil fruits, here they are. They're like anthropomorphic fruit, a strawberry warrior that is going to like kill anyone who refuses to submit to him. Just because, you know, there you are. The podcast is an overweight bearded man named Matthew. Then he's interviewing some guy named Quark the Conqueror. You know, like there is quite the ridiculousness of it. Gonzo the Great from the Muppets. James and the Frozen Peach. Yeah. Like, again, this is like very specific taste of humor that you have to really enjoy. A barrel of monkeys. There is a barrel full of monkeys in this mega dungeon, right? And so, like, it's got a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of weird stuff, mostly a lot of stupid Gonzo stuff. But, you know, there's lots of stuff that's super deadly, that's dangerous. There's some stuff here that is, like, close to Tomb of Horrors level rando, like, you know, there's really nothing that you or your characters, which is another common theme in Venger's products, though not so much here as usual. But there's some of it where, like, you know, nothing you do will matter. It's just basically a roll of the die whether you live or die. So it's that kind of a dungeon, you know. It's there was the other one I was thinking. There's another bunch of levels, right? And it just kind of goes through like this with all of these different entries, which are each of them very well described, very well explained. Again, there's no connection between in most cases. I'm not going to say in all cases because I might be like forgetting one little thing or another. There's sometimes maybe things you could have gotten in another place that you can use, but for the most part, these rooms are each their own unique set piece in a tableau of stupid Gonzo fantasy. The Matrix, and yeah, all kinds of ridiculousness. The Democratic Socialist Republic of Yagik. Lots of weird stuff. Again, really nice art. Spectacularly good art, I think. Another Socialist Democratic Republic of Yagik. Okay. Science Knows Best. Lots of nice tables, right? So, like, there's no question the quality of the product is really good. A game show in the middle, like in room 67, right in the middle of the dungeon, there's a crazy game show full of people and flashing lights and props. Where do those people come from? How do they live? No one knows. It doesn't matter. That's not what you're doing in here, right? In here, you're in a weird, you know, postmodern, bizarro world of goofiness where you're just not supposed to ask about the, oh my god, so random stuff. Anyways, the quality is really good. The production is really good. There's a large amount of stuff here. You could certainly spend a lot of time looking through this room, assuming that you and your players can muster the wherewithal to be interested in this style and genre. Right? If you like Gonzo but not stupid Gonzo, then check out my RPG Pundit Presents Gonzo stuff. If you just don't like Gonzo, well, check out something else. Maybe my medieval authentic sort of stuff. But like, if you enjoy it, if you find this stuff funny, there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with if you like this kind of, you know, kind of goofy style of play that is, you know, kind of cool. There's lots of fun stuff in there. There's interesting things going on. You're never going to be really, I don't think you're going to be bored by any, like, I mean, some of the rooms might feel boring to you more than others or something like that, but it's like, there's none of that, fuck all of that stuff about, like, oh, we have to keep track of our rations and this and that, right? Like, it's not, I wouldn't, at least if I was running this, I just would say, no, none of that matters, right? What matters, you're here in the dungeon now, you're not keeping track of stuff, you're just going through and trying to get through this dungeon, right? And, well, that's how it goes. So, yeah, this is, and there is a kind of an end scene. Maybe I shouldn't spoiler it, but anyways, there is an end scene there. Then at the back you have an appendix, which has rules for Dragon Slayer Crimson Drexler D20 in case you don't have your own system to use. The first rule of this is no character sheets, which is instantly a problem because it does in fact have stats and things. So yeah, but if you're looking for something to run, I guess you can use his system. It's got some stuff. In fact, I think it's the system he's been using in the live plays of that he's been doing on inappropriate characters a couple of times. You can go and check those out to learn more about how he uses the system. And should, if you watch it, you should also turn on the live chat so you can see all my commentary, because I was in the peanut gallery making fun of the whole thing. And yeah, here we are, these guys' backer names. I'll mention that this was a part of a successful Kickstarter. Now, Venger's got another Kickstarter that he's doing for a supplement to Chaalt. So there is going to be more material. I mean, he milked the Alpha Blue for years, so I'm pretty sure he's going to milk Chaalt for years too. And that, I know that new one, it's Mauve something or other. I forget what it's called, but I'm going to put a link to it on the description if I remember. If I remember, it'll be right at the very top, and then the link to the OSR Medieval Authentic Companion will be second. But yeah, so it's already been funded, and you can check that out. And so, like, he's going to have more products along this line if this is something that interests you, and if additional products is something that matters, right? So, in the end, it's just my bookmark there. What to say about Chaalt? Well, production-wise, absolutely top-notch, right? Like 100% full marks, really high quality. The art obviously fits with the weirdness of what he's making. The good, well, he's finally followed through on his promise to make a game that is OSR compatible, right? It's not, I mean, technically, I guess you could call it OSR now because it can be used with OSR. It's not specifically for OSR because he's created a very clever way of kind of doing something that gives you just enough information that you can run it with 5e or with OSR without having to, like, alter serious amounts of stuff. So I think that's fine. That's, you know, good job there. And he's put a lot of effort into it, and has made a number of very detailed and interesting material for the type of genre that he's making. The bad is you have to like that genre. If you don't like that genre, if you think that stupid Gonzo fantasy is just asinine, then you're not going to enjoy Chaalt at all. On the other hand, if you like that sort of thing, if that's fun to you, and if you can like if you want to run a session or 2 or 5, and would love to have that sort of thing, you know, your gaming group would love that sort of thing, then this is definitely a product to get. And it's as simple as that. This is made for a specific audience of people that like a specific style of somewhat goofy, very weird Gonzo fantasy that has a lot of unexpected stuff in it, and a lot of humorous stuff in it, and some pop culture references, more than a few actually, some of which are already well out of date. But anyways, that's the gist of what you get here. And if that's stuff that appeals to you, you're going to really like the product. It's a well-made product for the context of what it's for. If you don't like that kind of stuff, check out my stuff, because my stuff isn't like this, right? My stuff is even my Gonzo stuff is a slightly different level of being slightly more serious, right? It's got some fun stuff, it's got some humor, all Gonzo has some humor, but it's not quite like this, right? And then my medieval authentic stuff, if you don't like Gonzo at all, if you're like, no, I don't like that at all, you know, I only like vanilla ice cream, well then check out my RPGPundit Presents stuff for medieval authentic and Lion and Dragon, because there you have stuff that is like really about meticulous attention to historical realism, Game of Thrones style action, but with, like, you know, serious consequences, and a style of fantasy that is pretty much the opposite of Gonzo, and which proves that you can like both things, right? I like both, so, you know, somebody might like my products, might like Chaalt. There you are. So I guess that's it for today. Be sure to share this video anywhere you think people find it interesting, subscribe and hit the bell, and check out all my products. And if you liked this review, check out Chaalt. And stay tuned for more reviews and the like. Currently smoking a Nirup Poker plus Country Doctor.